Just watching this video, they said there was some unknown stuff about Dahmer, or something about he had thigh bones to channel evil spirits. And it kind of made me think that, you know, if he's waiting for a child to be born and trying to, at the same time as the child's born in a hospital, you know, being psychotic or whatever, or having ESP and knowing when a child's born, I know you think, well, you can't, how would you do that? Well, if you don't think about it, then you don't know how to do it. Not saying I do it. Not saying I think about it. Not saying that I've heard of people doing it. But I know the homosexuals of this country, that they started back, I don't know if it might have been the 60s. I realized that they were trying to, whether they were trying to change to get more homosexuals because they were being oppressed. You know, they're doing this unnatural, only they'll say, oh, it's natural because whatever, this, that, and the other does it. Well, I've never heard of two male seeds, or two male flowers giving birth to a tree or a plant. So somewhere along the line, there's something messed up once it goes from plants to animals. Why? And the one guy's saying frogs are turning gay. Well, that was an article about frogs, that there was only it was a mass of males or something like that born. They found that a mass of males born in some river system, they had more males than females. I don't know. I can't remember the reason. There was more of one than the other. And so some of the males were starting, like there's some animals that it might come from them eating worms. Frogs eating worms, and worms are amorphous. They got a male side and a female side of a worm. But anyway, the frogs were turning, I don't know if they were turning their sex organs were turning into female sex organs after they were born, or when they were real small, but they were turning into females, so that they were saying because it was for the need of to breed, to keep their frog race alive. Because apparently the Frog King said, we need more women, and we're only having men frogs born, so we need more women, so we're going to need some of you to turn into females. Well, apparently frogs said, oh, okay, so, no, I don't know. Anyway, somewhere along, I was talking about how homosexuals trying to turn they want more homosexuals born, so they have a mass. So now, I mean, here it was the 60s, and they finally got the amount of homosexuals that they wanted, so they could turn over. Why they wanted more of the same if they don't like what they are, except they're saying that they like being females. I don't know. Maybe it's because they're acting. Their life, they wanted to do one thing and they couldn't do that, and they didn't want to do something else. I don't know, but whatever. But instead of just living their life out and then dying, I'm not saying they'd kill themselves or whatever, but just live their life out and die, instead of saying, well, let's make more people suffer until they turn homosexual. Anyway, enough people, and you can see that because, I mean, look at the growth of homosexuality. And I don't think it's from media. I think it's from the thought. It's almost like there must be a group of homosexuals, or was, that wanted to maybe create a association of homos that they'd all pay dues for, which would make these guys real rich from being the founding fathers of a homosexual club. I guess it'd be bigger than a club. I don't know if association is bigger than a club. Anyway, so where they'd get all the homosexuals to pay dues to be homos or whatever, so that then they could, and then it'd be like the Masons 1,000 years from now. There'd be a bunch of rich homosexuals who wouldn't do anything. They just collect dues from homosexual club. But they were trying to change thoughts of embryos as an embryo. You know, they weren't. I don't think they were walking up to mothers, but it's like witches or all this black magic stuff and voodoo and all that crap. Which is voodoo is like they say it's only 800 years old. I'm sure you read one thing that says 800 years old. If you read something else, they'll say older, but they'll probably say it's infinite because you know they don't want to be said that it actually derived from what somebody else said. But there was pyramids. They found pyramids with like 10,000 dolls that they say back then in the time of pharaohs and stuff, there must have been a large pilgrimage to these pyramids. Apparently it was 100, they found at least 100 pyramids up and down the Nile and the Euphrates. Some of them were just mounds of dirt that they thought they were just mounds of dirt, and still the whatever those people that dig up stuff start digging in there, and they found they were clay bricks, and they found it was they assumed or whatever that they were the first pyramids made out of like clay, and which over time the pyramids evolved through architectural whatever it is, the evolution of architecture into where they could build pyramids. Well, they couldn't build them because they just filled them with dirt. Apparently these beginning pyramids didn't have any dirt in the inside, and they had to figure, well, we can't build anything. So there's something you could say about the Egyptians. They ain't that smart because they had to be filled with dirt to hold them up in a pyramid shape. They didn't know how to structurally keep them pyramids around that long without having them filled with dirt or building these blocks up around with dirt. Anyway, the dolls, I'm just saying that like how religions try to control. If you have a mass of people trying to control somebody to do something, that's basically, I mean, religion, witches, voodoo. If there's enough people against one person, after a while, it's like they're going to block the normal thought of that person, and it's going to be influxed with what they want that person to be like, and it's going to turn that person, which I'm not saying that there's a lot of stuff like that, and it might not. That's why I'm saying Satan is the human race because of their breeding, and which is basically the humans are an entity that are using animal flesh to exist, and they're breeding this animal flesh, and they're saying they're above animals, but they've taken on animal flesh, and they're breeding the animal flesh to make more because they forget they're an entity. They think they're a race. So humans, the meat eating, which is basically animals are God because they made humans. Now I'll get into another video on how animals made humans. But the way that religion has written for, I don't know if it's the selfishness, the ignorance, or whatever it was, claiming somewhere along the line, it used to be, I mean, Egyptians, animals were the gods, and in pagans, animals were gods. Of course, no, pagans had it was those Viking gods anyway. But maybe it was the Egyptians were, I don't know, anywhere, somewhere along some, of course there's what India has, Hindu, they have gods, but they drink milk, and anyway, they're not, none of them are into it. Humans are an entity or an energy that are using human flesh, animal flesh, which is humans flesh, and they're eating the pie. It's almost like a satanic cult. They're eating the animal flesh to gain animal strength from what humans were. Or humans were originally born from animals because animal thought over millions of years have created all the animals. You know, like say it started out, once a mind was around, the thought evolved the next species, and then it just kept going. And it's not like just instant boom, boom, boom. And why aren't they still evolved now? Because humans have stolen the thought from animals by being born from them and around them. They just unconsciously and consciously have stolen and intercepted the thought of which animals are, which leaves animals they are just now in a state of survival, I guess. They still have thought, they still think, and it's still stolen by humans, although humans probably don't know it. They just go around thinking every thought of their own is their own thought, because nobody talks about, well, even though some people say, what are you thinking? They never say, oh, I was thinking, even though some people say they was thinking the same thing. Nobody realizes that, oh, it might be a rush for a second. But anyway, I was talking about homosexuals trying to take over embryos. And I think that's what's happening, is homosexuals, that small group that has spread out and maybe just used. It's kind of like if you, okay, you're a king and your village has rules. Well, people that move out of there still have some of the rules. If they move out of the kingdom, they move to their own little village. Whether it's inside the kingdom's rule or if it moves out just outside, they still, somewhere along the line, they still have some basic rules that they might have picked up from that kingdom that they want to use, but they thought, well, they disagreed with these, and that's that's how everybody spread, is that disagreement of a tribe or disagreement of this, or they was pushed out. Maybe they were maybe they're breeding with another tribe and they didn't want to breed with another tribe. Anyway, all the different reasons that people leave. But the group of homosexuals are taking over. I'm not saying they know which ones they take over. Just their thought of wanting to take over this group, and they all thinking, if we get all these people born and they're homosexuals, we'll have more homosexuals, so we'll have more people voting or being like we are, which will give us more power. Whether there was like satanic power or not, I'm not saying that. Anyway. So that's what I'm pretty sure that's where all this the homosexuals come from, is because a group of them wanted to. In fact, it might have been through. Look at Rome. It seems like every time there's a group that grows up, some people, they blame the Jewish. I don't know if it's a community or the religion moving from country to country, and like Rome, they rose up in Rome, and now Rome is destroyed because they always bring up their own issues of, they have this issues, and they might trade off ideas with the king, and then after 500 years of trade off ideas, basically the trade off is maybe 50% of the ideas are Jewish. I'm not saying it's all Jewish. There's business people. There's people just want to take over, and then the government will accept ideas if they think if it betters them, whether it betters the whole community. They'll say we doing it for the betterment of everybody, but they don't care about everybody. There's a lot of this. You wouldn't have such a rush of technology if they cared about everybody. It's just certain groups they care about. They think, oh, it's going to help everybody. It's not. But anyway. So you got homosexuals building up all these thoughts around embryos, and I don't know how you'd stop it. You'd have, because once a thought is gone, it's forever. Whether it gets it gets forgotten, it's still around. It might be in some. It's an energy, so it might just be like if you're walking around. Not saying there's thoughts all over the place floating around, but there might be. But if you're walking, if you ever notice, like you're walking and all of a sudden you feel a little different, like wow, I have an intuition or something like that. You're going into an area and what is, you feel weirder or different, or maybe you even feel, maybe emotions are coming from a lost thought. And maybe some people accept that lost thought and they build it up because, well, this is good and the people around really like this. And people that read a lot of history might get it. But anyway, how do you get all this lost thought? I'll tell you. You quit eating meat. You quit breeding because you think that it's a traditional thing that you need to breed. People are, if you're eating meat, then you automatically are traditionalized, and you're thinking you're better through the argument of why. If you're asked why do you eat meat, well, it's this, that, and the other. It comes down to you think you're better than animals. So, well, I'm gonna have to write this stuff down to remember what I was even talking about. So I guess at the end of this, run out of where I started at.